The murmur of the guests filled the hall like a gentle melody, mingled with the distant sound of the choir, rehearsing its final notes. The fresh fragrance of white roses and lilies spread along the main aisle, filling the air with the promise of a day that should have been perfect. Every detail seemed carefully planned, the glow of the candelabras reflecting on the polished floor, the delicacy of the arrangements flanking the red carpet, and the soft rustle of silk as the guests' dresses glided toward the decorated pews. Between nervous laughter and polite greetings, everyone waited anxiously for the moment when the bride would appear. Many leaned over to comment on how blessed the couple seemed, how much they complimented each other. There was anticipation in every look, as if all were about to witness not just a wedding, but the realization of a modern fairy tale. Jessica took a deep breath in her reserved room, surrounded by bridesmaids adjusting small details of her dress. The veil rested like a delicate cloud upon her shoulders, and her hands, though trembling, held the bouquet of white peonies firmly. Her eyes reflected the mix of anxiety and joy one feels before the greatest step of life. Her heart pounded as if it wanted to keep up with the rush of time, which seemed to advance faster than she wished. At her side, Piper, her best friend, tried to ease the tension with light comments, but even her smile couldn't fully calm the bride. On the other side, Adam spoke in a low tone with Sean and a few groomsmen. His wide smile charmed everyone, but there was something in his demeanor that betrayed a silent unease. From time to time, he fiddled with his watch, breathed too deeply, and averted his eyes as if trying to hide heavy thoughts. To others, it was nothing more than ordinary nerves. But an almost imperceptible aura of tension was beginning to hover in the air. Closer to the altar, Margaret and Thomas, Jessica's parents, exchanged emotional glances, proud of their daughter. On the other side, Linda and Robert, Adam's parents, watched with contained smiles, exuding confidence. Meanwhile, the main doors remained closed, guarding the mystery soon to be revealed. The music swelled softly, like a prelude to the grand moment. Children played quietly in the pews. Guests took quick photos with their cell phones, and curious eyes turned now and then toward the illuminated altar. Everything seemed perfect. But, like a play about to suffer an unexpected twist, something invisible was seeping through the flowers and lights. A shadow no one noticed, but ready to reveal itself at the least expected moment. And while Jessica believed she was about to walk into the realization of her dreams, she could not imagine that, in just a few minutes, that same aisle would witness not only vows of love, but also a truth capable of shattering hearts and changing destinies forever. Jessica had never been the type of woman who sought the spotlight. Since childhood, she preferred the quiet corners of her parents' home, Margaret and Thomas, over the hustle of loud parties. She grew up in a small town surrounded by green hills, where the smell of wet earth after rain was as familiar as the warmth of the bread her mother pulled from the oven on Sunday mornings. She was a young woman who had learned early to value simple gestures, a silent hug, a sincere word, a hand extended in times of need. To those who knew her, Jessica possessed a delicate beauty, almost understated. Brown hair that fell in soft waves over her shoulders. Blue eyes so intense, they reflected not only the color of the sky but also the depth of her emotions. People often remarked how she seemed to carry in her gaze a world of dreams, but also the strength of someone who had already faced silent battles. Those battles shaped the woman now about to walk down the aisle. During her teenage years, Jessica endured the pain of watching her family nearly lose their home amid financial hardship. While Thomas worked extra hours and Margaret sewed clothes for neighbors, Jessica helped however she could, often setting aside her own desires to support her parents. The resilience born from those uncertain days followed her into adulthood, giving her the rare ability to rise again in the face of difficulties. It was in college, in a silent library, that she met Adam. He approached her amid stacks of books, asking to borrow a pen, and the smile that accompanied the request was forever etched in her memory. In the days that followed, casual conversations turned into long exchanges of confidences. To Jessica, Adam seemed to bring a lightness that contrasted with the burdens she had carried for so long. He laughed easily, spoke of grand dreams, and made her believe that with him, nothing was impossible. Over the years of their relationship, Jessica gave herself completely to the promise of a future with Adam. Every tender message, every unexpected surprise, every gesture of care reinforced the feeling that she had finally found a love solid and worthy of trust. Piper, her best friend since school days, often reminded her that not everything is as perfect as it seems, but Jessica insisted on believing. "He's not like the others," she would say with conviction, and her eyes would shine when she spoke of him. Deep down, however, even amid the joy of wedding preparations, Jessica carried a thin thread of insecurity. It was a silent fear, almost hidden, that life might once again play her a cruel trick. She tried to push the thought away, focusing instead on what was to come. Walking down the aisle, Adam's gaze fixed on hers, the promises of eternal love. What she didn't know was that this thread of insecurity would soon turn into a heavy rope, tightening around her heart when the truth revealed itself in the most brutal way. Adam had always been the kind of man who drew attention wherever he went. It wasn't just his striking looks, dark, neatly combed hair, a strong jawline, and deep brown eyes, but the natural confidence that radiated from every gesture. When he entered a room, the atmosphere seemed to shift, as if everyone instinctively turned their eyes toward him. That magnetic presence had been one of the first things that captivated Jessica. Over the years, Adam cultivated an impeccable reputation. At work, he was seen as a natural leader, someone capable of motivating colleagues with inspiring words and quick decisions. Among friends, he was the center of jokes, the one who always knew how to tell a story so engagingly that everyone fell silent to hear the ending. For his family, he was the exemplary son, attentive to Linda and Robert, always present at Sunday lunches. But behind the charming smile lay layers few could see. He knew how to shape his own image, how to hide weaknesses beneath layers of charisma. The unease that sometimes flickered in his eyes went unnoticed by most, but not by Sean, his closest friend. Sean knew parts of Adam's life he would never reveal to Jessica, secrets that, until that moment, seemed safely buried. On the wedding day, Adam moved among the guests with firm steps, offering warm greetings and well-timed jokes. Many said he seemed born for moments like this, as if the celebration were the crowning jewel of a perfectly constructed life. Yet, there was something in his movements that betrayed an inner weight. When no one was looking, his gaze would drift for a few seconds, and his hands discreetly tightened around his wristwatch, as though he needed an anchor to steady his nerves. Jessica, still in her private room, couldn't see those signs. To her, Adam remained the man who had promised to love her in every detail, the partner with whom she dreamed of sharing every day of her life. Piper, however, noticed the tension. "He looks too nervous," she whispered quietly, careful not to shake Jessica's confidence. Jessica smiled, dismissing it as the ordinary nerves of any groom. The choir tuned their voices, and the air seemed to vibrate with anticipation. Adam straightened his tie before a nearby mirror, took a deep breath, and for a fleeting instant, let his weary expression show. Sean placed a hand on his shoulder and murmured something only Adam could hear. Adam's eyes hardened, as if trying to convince himself of something greater than he truly believed. To the public eye, he was the charming groom, the man destined to make Jessica the happiest woman in the world. But hidden behind smiles and courtesies, he carried truths that, if exposed, could turn a fairy tale into a tragedy. And that revelation was about to arrive sooner than anyone expected. Piper carefully adjusted Jessica's veil, trying to disguise the unease growing inside her. Since childhood, the two had been inseparable. They had spent years sharing secrets, laughing late into the night, and crying together through their first heartbreaks. Piper knew Jessica better than anyone. could recognize in the sparkle of her friend's eyes when something was right, and especially when something was wrong. That day, while everyone else seemed dazzled by Adam's charm, Piper couldn't shake an odd feeling. She remembered the times she had tried to warn Jessica about how he seemed almost too perfect to be real. But Jessica always responded with conviction. "I know he's the right man for me. I feel it." And Piper, despite her doubts, never wanted to dim that light of hope shining on her friend's face. "You look beautiful," Piper said now, with a caring smile, adjusting the hem of the silk dress. "Adam's going to lose it when he sees you walk in." Jessica returned the smile nervously and drew a deep breath. "I'm so anxious, Piper. It feels like I've been waiting for this moment my whole life." Piper's heart tightened. There was too much sincerity in that phrase. Jessica had placed every dream into Adam's hands, and that frightened her. For an instant, Piper wanted to say more, to admit that something about his behavior unsettled her, that maybe it would be wiser to wait, to watch. But faced with the happiness radiating from her friend's face, she swallowed the words. Still, she couldn't help but add softly, "Just promise me one thing, Jess. If you ever feel that something isn't right, that your heart is telling you to stop, listen to that instinct." Jessica frowned, surprised by her friend's seriousness. "Everything's fine, Piper. I trust him." Then she smiled, as if the smile itself could serve as a shield against any shadow of doubt. Piper hugged her tightly, silently, wishing she was wrong. Because deep down, something told her that this day, which should have been remembered only for flowers and promises, also carried a revelation powerful enough to change everything. And as the church bells began to toll, announcing that the ceremony was about to begin, Piper felt that destiny was simply waiting for the right moment to reveal its cruelest face. The final moments before the ceremony seemed to carry an almost sacred weight. The main aisle was already filled with smiling guests, while the murmur of voices blended with the soft sound of the choir tuning their notes. The perfume of flowers filled the air with a sweet, enveloping fragrance, as if the very atmosphere was saturated with promises of happiness. Jessica, hidden behind the closed doors, felt her heart pounding in her chest. The dress seemed heavier with every breath, and the bouquet in her hands trembled slightly. She tried to convince herself it was nothing more than nerves, the same anxiety every bride feels. Beside her, Piper watched silently, holding her friend's hand to pass along calm, even though inside her, suspicion gave her no rest. At the altar, Adam adjusted his tie once again. He smiled at the groomsmen, but the smile never reached his eyes. From a distance, Linda and Robert, his parents, looked at him with evident pride. Margaret and Thomas, in turn, were emotional, exchanging glances filled with certainty that their daughter was about to live the happiest day of her life. The clock marked each minute with almost cruel precision. Every second stretched out, heavy with expectation. Children fidgeted restlessly in the pews, laughing discreetly, while adults whispered about the beauty of the scene. The red carpet stretched to the altar, glowing under the golden light of the candles, like a path destined to carry Jessica to her future. Sean, standing close to Adam, noticed his friend's discomfort. Leaning discreetly, he whispered, "Relax, it's going to be fine." But Adam's response was only a heavy sigh, as though he bore a secret no smile could ever hide. Jessica drew in a deep breath, trying to quiet her mind. She recalled every promise Adam had made, every tender gesture that had made her believe in his love. She wanted to believe that all the signs of nervousness were nothing more than natural anxiety. Still, the faint tightness in her chest refused to disappear. The church doors began to creak, ready to open. Guests straightened in their seats, the choir took its place, and a reverent silence spread like a wave. Jessica closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply, believing she was only steps away from turning her life into a fairy tale. Little did she know that, before even stepping onto the aisle, she would hear something capable of shattering every dream she had nurtured until that very moment. Jessica was only minutes away from walking through the church doors when she decided to step away for a moment. She asked her bridesmaids for a little space and walked down a side corridor, saying she just needed a breath. Piper wanted to follow, but Jessica insisted she would be fine. Her heart pounded erratically, and she believed a few seconds of silence would be enough to steady herself. The corridor was empty, lit only by the soft glow of candles fixed to the walls. The air was cooler there, heavy with the fragrance of flowers arranged in every corner. Jessica leaned briefly against a marble column, closing her eyes in an effort to calm her nerves. That was when she heard voices. Familiar voices. One of them unmistakable. Adam's. Jessica froze, clutching the bouquet against her chest, as the sounds echoed down the narrow hall. She had no intention of eavesdropping, but the words reached her with cruel clarity. "I don't know if I can do this." Adam's voice was tight with tension. "You need to keep calm, Adam," Sean replied, his tone low but firm. "No one knows anything. After today, it'll be too late to turn back." Jessica's stomach twisted. The blood roared in her ears, yet she couldn't move. She stood paralyzed, trapped in the moment. Adam sighed heavily and went on. "I still think about her, Sean. I should never have taken it this far. Marrying Jessica was the easy way out, the way to keep the perfect image. But my heart isn't here." The floor seemed to vanish beneath Jessica's feet. Her heart raced so fast, she could hardly breathe. The flowers in her hands slipped slightly, and she had to steady herself against the wall to keep from collapsing. Adam's words cut into her like shards of glass. "My heart isn't here." Each syllable destroyed another piece of the dream she had built. Images flooded her mind in flashes. Candlelit dinners, whispered promises over the phone, afternoons where he made her laugh until she cried. Now it all seemed like a carefully staged lie. Sean's voice returned, more urgent. "Enough, Adam. Today you walk to that altar, flash the perfect smile, and move forward. It's too late to back out now." Jessica clapped a hand over her mouth, muffling a sob. The salty taste of tears reached her lips as she forced herself to retreat quietly, terrified of being discovered. Her heart begged her to run, to scream, to confront them both, yet her legs felt rooted to the ground. Finally, she managed to move, stumbling back toward the bridal room where Piper waited. Her friend immediately noticed the pale, shaken look on her face. "Jess, what happened? You're trembling." Jessica could only shake her head, unable to speak. Adam's words still pounded in her mind, turning the wedding dress into an unbearable weight. She had uncovered the truth at the very moment she least expected it. And in that instant, she was no longer the woman who dreamed of the altar. She was someone torn apart by betrayal, on the brink of making a decision that would change everything. Jessica returned to the bridal room, carrying on her shoulders a weight no one could see. The walls, once bright and comforting, now felt as though they were closing in around her. The dress, which symbolized purity and hope, had become a suffocating burden. Every layer of fabric seemed to tighten, reminding her of the prison she was about to accept. Piper immediately sensed something was wrong. She rushed forward, took Jessica's icy hands in hers, and asked in a trembling voice, "What happened? Jess, you're as pale as a ghost." Jessica tried to answer, but no words came. The knot in her throat was so tight that only silent tears managed to escape. Piper pulled her into a fierce embrace, and it was in that moment of comfort that Jessica finally broke down. "I heard him, Piper," she managed to whisper, her voice cracking. "I heard Adam. He doesn't love me. He never really loved me." The silence that followed was more deafening than any scream. Piper pulled back slightly, staring into her friend's tear-filled eyes. "What do you mean?" Jessica drew in a shaky breath, fighting through sobs. "He confessed to Sean, said he's only here for the image, the convenience, that he's been with someone else, until not long ago." Every word felt like tearing another piece of her heart. Piper's hand flew to her mouth, shocked. But she wasted no time in denial or doubt. She knew Jessica too well. The look in her eyes left no room for lies. "Oh God, Jess. I don't know what to say." Jessica buried her face in her hands. Her crying came now in waves, fierce and uncontrollable. Every memory of Adam returned like a blade twisting in her chest. Their first kiss, the proposal, the long vows of eternal love. All turned to ashes in the very moment they were meant to bloom. The distant sound of the choir rehearsing seemed to mock the pain consuming her. Each note rang like a cruel reminder that, outside, everyone awaited a celebration, while inside, her world lay in ruins. "I'm such a fool, Piper. I believed every word. I put my whole life into this marriage. And now I don't know what to do." Piper gripped her friend's face firmly. "Don't say that. You are not a fool. You loved. You trusted. And that is never weakness, Jess. It shows who you are, someone who can believe, even when the world tries to disappoint you." Jessica closed her eyes, letting more tears fall. Her heart was shattered, but somewhere in the rubble a spark was beginning to glow. Still weak, barely visible, but the seed of something greater, courage. Because in that moment, amid the collapse of every dream she had held, Jessica understood she had to decide. Either let the lie consume her, or transform her pain into her greatest weapon. Jessica sat before the mirror, staring at her own reflection as if it were a stranger. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes swollen and red, and the veil, once a symbol of purity and joy, now felt like a cruel reminder of the deception she was living. Piper sat beside her, silent, holding her hand and offering presence instead of words. The sounds from the corridor drifted in faintly, as though from another world. Guests laughed, musicians tuned their instruments, children ran through the pews. Everything outside continued in perfect order, while inside that room Jessica's life had collapsed. She closed her eyes and drew in a deep breath. She had to think. She had to decide. A part of her wanted to run, to tear off the dress, push through the back doors, and disappear before the main doors of the church opened. She imagined herself climbing into a cab, leaving behind curious glances and inevitable gossip. But at the same time, something inside her recoiled at that thought. Why should she be the one to carry the shame? Why should she hide when the lie wasn't hers? Slowly, Jessica rose to her feet. Her fingers trembled as they brushed against the bouquet, but her voice, when it finally came, was steady. "I'm not running, Piper." Her friend's eyes widened. "Then what are you going to do?" Jessica turned once more to the mirror, meeting the gaze of the woman staring back at her. She was no longer the dreamer who believed blindly in promises. She was someone wounded, yes, but still standing. Someone who, despite the pain, would not be silenced. "I'm going to the altar," she said, her conviction growing stronger with each word. "But not to say yes. I'll go there to speak the truth." Piper shivered, a chill running through her body. She wanted to respond, but realized nothing needed to be said. The decision was final. Jessica adjusted the dress with her own hands, each movement like an act of rebirth. She smoothed the veil, wiped her eyes, and drew a long, steady breath. Her heart still ached, but now it beat with a new purpose. "He took my dreams," she whispered, "but he will not take my voice." And with that certainty etched into her soul, Jessica prepared to walk toward the altar. No longer as the naive bride everyone expected to see, but as the woman who would transform her pain into strength before them all. The church doors opened slowly, and a reverent silence fell over the space. Everyone rose to their feet, eyes fixed on Jessica. Her white gown gleamed under the candlelight, and the veil, draped delicately over her shoulders, seemed to float with each step. To the guests, this was the long-awaited moment, the culmination of a dream. But within her, every movement was weighed down by unbearable truth. The choir began to sing, their voices filling the hall, and Jessica walked steadily down the red carpet. Each step matched the frantic beating of her heart, not from anticipation of saying yes, but from the certainty that she carried a truth no one was prepared to hear. Piper followed just behind her, eyes wide with both pride and fear, knowing the storm was moments away. At the altar, Adam stood tall, flawless in appearance. His practiced smile was ready, his gaze fixed on the approaching bride, his posture confident. But Jessica saw through it all. She saw the man who had, just minutes before, confessed he didn't love her, who had revealed his betrayal without knowing she was listening, and the sight of him only fueled her resolve. When she finally reached the altar, Jessica stopped. The officiant opened his book, preparing to begin the formal words, but before he could speak, Jessica raised her hand. The gesture was firm, slicing the air with unspoken authority. The choir fell silent, the guests shifted in confusion, and a murmur rippled through the church. Before any words are spoken here today, Jessica's voice rang out, steady though heavy with emotion. There is something everyone must know. Adam blinked, startled, and leaned toward her. Jessica, not now. She didn't flinch. Her eyes, brimming with unshed tears, burned with unyielding fire. I heard you, Adam. Her words cut like blades. I heard your confession minutes ago. I heard you tell Sean you don't love me, that this marriage is nothing but an image for you. Gasps filled the hall. Margaret and Thomas, shocked, clasped their hands over their mouths. Linda and Robert exchanged tense, disbelieving glances. Piper's eyes filled with tears, her chest heaving with pride and sorrow at once. Adam opened his mouth to protest, but his voice faltered under the weight of her gaze. Jessica drew in a breath, steadying herself, and continued. I dreamed of this moment from the day I said yes to your proposal. I believed every word, every gesture. But today, in front of everyone, I refuse to be deceived again. Her eyes swept across the crowd. What was meant to be the beginning of a life together has revealed itself as a stage of lies. And I will not stand on that stage. Her words echoed through the silent church like rolling thunder. Jessica wasn't just exposing betrayal. She was standing tall as a woman who would no longer allow herself to be reduced to the victim of a carefully told lie. And in that moment, the fairy tale shattered before them all. The entire hall was silent, as if no one dared breathe. Adam tried to regain control of the moment, opening his mouth to say something. But Jessica raised her hand once more, silencing him before a single word could escape. The authority in her gesture was so commanding that even the officiant lowered his eyes respectfully. Adam, she said, her voice carrying a calmness sharper than anger, you robbed me of the chance to believe in true love. You made me dream of a future that never existed. But you will not take my dignity. The guests held their breath. Piper, overcome with emotion, clasped her hands together, as if trying to send strength across the room to her friend. Jessica turned then, addressing the crowd. The veil slipped slightly from her shoulder, but she didn't bother fixing it. To everyone who came today to celebrate this wedding, know that there will be no vows here. I will not join myself to a man who betrayed me, who uses love as a mask. Today will not be a day of false promises. Today will be a day of truth. Her words cut through the silence like knives, yet there was no hatred in her tone. There was firmness. There was courage. It was a revenge, unlike what anyone might have expected. Not shouting, not a scandalous scene, but the public unveiling of the lie, with a calmness that struck far deeper than rage ever could. Adam flushed red, his practiced smile collapsing as his face trembled. You don't understand, Jess. I know, she interrupted, locking her gaze onto his. I understand perfectly. I understand that love cannot be a mask. Then, with a movement no one anticipated, Jessica slipped the engagement ring from her finger and placed it on the altar. The metallic sound as it touched the surface echoed like a final verdict. A ripple of whispers coursed through the pews. Some pressed their hands to their chests, others murmured words of support. Piper let out a soft sob, pride shining through her tears, as she watched her friend turn pain into courage. Jessica stepped back, lifted her chin, and declared, My revenge is simple. I choose myself, and no one can take that from me. And with that, the fate of the wedding was sealed forever. For a moment, the hall remained in absolute silence, as if time itself had stopped. The ring still rested on the altar, catching the glow of the candles, a small object bearing immense meaning. Adam stood frozen, his lips parted, unable to summon any defense against the revelation. Margaret, with tears streaming down her face, rose from her seat, overwhelmed by a mix of heartbreak and pride. Thomas placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his own eyes glistening. Across the aisle, Linda and Robert sat pale, as though the flawless image they had built around their son had shattered in an instant. The guests began to murmur, their voices swelling through the church. Some expressed shock. Others shook their heads slowly in quiet approval, recognizing Jessica's courage. The choir remained frozen, each singer staring at the scene unfolding before them. Unable to resume their song as though nothing had happened, Piper moved closer, placing a firm hand on Jessica's arm. Words weren't needed. The gesture itself was enough. Jessica drew a deep breath, still standing tall, her tears shimmering, but her dignity intact. Adam made a step toward her, but she raised her hand sharply, stopping him in his tracks. "Don't you dare follow me," she said, her voice low but firm enough for everyone to hear. "The stage for your lie ends here." Then Jessica turned. Each step she took down the aisle echoed against the stone floor, heavy with finality. The gown swept along the red carpet, no longer as a symbol of fragility but as the mark of a woman who had chosen herself over deceit. When she reached the doors, the murmuring of the guests swelled into a wave of hesitant applause. Timid at first, then growing louder. It was not applause for a celebration, but for the courage they had just witnessed. Jessica paused only for a second, inhaled deeply, and pushed the doors open. The glow of the setting sun poured into the church, flooding the room with golden light. Her figure was illuminated as she crossed the threshold. And without looking back, she left behind a wedding that never happened, but one that no one would ever forget. The late afternoon sun painted the sky in shades of gold and orange as Jessica stepped out of the church. The fresh air touched her face, a sharp contrast to the suffocating atmosphere she had just left behind. Every step on the stone path felt like a release, as though she was not only leaving a broken wedding but shedding years of illusions that had finally crumbled. She walked slowly, her gown still trailing behind, yet it no longer felt like a burden. The fabric, once a symbol of confinement, had become part of her transformation. Jessica was no longer the deceived bride. She was the woman who had chosen herself in front of everyone. Piper caught up with her outside. Without saying a word, she wrapped Jessica in a tight embrace. This time, Jessica allowed the tears to fall again, but they were different, not only of sorrow, but of freedom. Piper whispered softly in her ear, "You were stronger than any of us imagined." Jessica drew in a breath, leaning into the comfort of her friend's arms. "I thought I'd lost everything, Piper, but maybe I just found what truly matters." Guests began to file out of the church, some in respectful silence, others sending admiring glances toward Jessica, murmuring words of support. She didn't answer. She simply lifted her chin, knowing that on this day she had gained something no betrayal could steal. Margaret and Thomas approached her next. Her mother, still emotional, clasped Jessica's hands. "You made us proud today, Jess. Not because you wore this veil, but because you had the courage to remove it once you knew the truth." Jessica smiled through her tears. "I thought this would be the day I said yes, but instead, it became the day I learned to say no." The horizon before her looked different now. Wider, open, filled with possibilities yet to be discovered. There were no chains left, only the promise of a beginning written on her own terms. And as the sun dipped behind the hills, Jessica walked forward, leaving behind not only a broken wedding, but also a version of herself that would never return. Because that day, she was reborn in courage. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are not the ones where everything goes as planned, but the ones where courage forces us to rewrite destiny. Jessica believed she was living her fairy tale, Yet she discovered that her greatest strength was standing up to lies and choosing herself. That is the real victory, when pain turns into courage, and an ending becomes a new beginning. Thank you for staying with us until the end, and following every detail of this emotional journey. It's because of you, watching to the very last second, that we keep bringing stories that touch the heart and leave lasting marks. If this story moved you, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next ones. Here on Lasting Tales, every week brings new narratives that will inspire, surprise, and stir deep emotions. And now I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in Jessica's place? Would you have walked away quietly, or stood up in front of everyone to tell the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read each one of them. Don't stop here. Continue your journey with us, and watch another unforgettable story on the channel. And remember, here at Lasting Tales, every story leaves marks that time cannot erase. We'll see you in the next one.